Yeah, so I was thinking today probably just like skip the regular intro. It's always like way too awkward.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we're always, oh, hey guys, Chossy Conversations, your host that you know from like the 8th time you've listened to this episode.
Listen to it. I think you just did the whole
Yep, there's the intro.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, we're moving on.
So we're here. We've got 2 guests. We've got Ryan and Clay. Clay, let's start with you. Give us a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from.
All right. Well, I'm Clay Lippincott. I was started climbing in Wyoming in probably about the mid '80s to early '80s. Climbed a lot with a lot of Wyoming locals: Todd Skinner, Paul Piana, Amy Skinner, Heidi Bachelorette, I think is her name. Anyway, I probably screwed that up, but anyway, Heidi. So I was pretty big in the Wyoming climbing scene in the mid-'80s. I had a lot of old climbing partners from the Ouray from way back in the 1940s. And then I climbed all the way up to today. The last climbing comp that I was in was the International, or what the hell was it? It was in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, no, I think I heard of that one.
So I was in Salt Lake City in the mid-'90s. That was like my last climbing comp that I climbed in. Legit, like entered, blah, blah, blah. And then this last summer, I actually climbed in another comp in Wyoming, the International Climbers Festival, and placed 3rd with my brother. Should have won it. Fell short on 2 bolts from the last whatever, what the hell. But we lost the comp by 2 bolts. I missed it and fell. So next year coming about to that. So anyway, I guess that's who I am. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Awesome.
But that does bring me into an immediate question, and I'm going to jump into some more detail later, but I'm just kind of curious, what is your thoughts on competition climbing?
I think there's a time and a place for competition climbing. I think it's changed a lot since the beginning of competition, because we're in the intro of that. Today's competitions are a lot more complex, a lot more better competitors. Back then, we were just like, woohoo, yay, look at all these plastic holds, let's go climbing, yeah. It was all kind of fun, and everybody had a good time. But today, it's like more serious, and everybody's training, and there's gym climbers. I was before the gyms even came out. So when we got the gyms and the plastic holds, that was all super cool. We were like, whoa, check this out. Plastic holds, what the hell is all this? And that kind of evolved into this outdoor competition thing, like Snowbird and
which was things. Snowbird was like was that like a World Cup like invite,
or was
it was international invite, right? Yeah, that was I've seen some stuff about Snowbird. So is that Snowbird? Is that in Utah?
Yeah, it's in Utah.
Yeah, Utah. I think
so.
We were really close there.
Yeah, we were actually talking about, because isn't that where Tommy Caldwell got his start?
Yes.
Yeah,
he won that comp.
Yeah, he just showed up like
the Citizens comp.
Total random. Yeah. Here, look at me go climbing. And they kind of highlighted that in their movie. So yeah, he won that.
Right on.
I was there for that. I lost.
It looked pretty rough.
It was legit.
Yeah, right on. So we've also got Ryan here. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about your background and some of the stuff you work in climbing.
Yeah, so I grew up in the desert of Phoenix, Arizona, and it's been a pleasure to run around the open space that we have out there in the West. It's super inspiring. We have incredible access to rock all over the place. Not only that, I do enjoy canyoneering as well. So we drop into some, pretty tight spots. And, one thing about being here in Ouray, Colorado this week for the Ice Fest, it's a fucking slot canyon, man.
Yeah, it totally is.
And it's filled in with ice, and it's so stunning. And it definitely gets me stoked on more exploration in Arizona, checking out the canyons in the winter, and then when it all melts out, going and wrapping these waterfalls and climbing some steep shit.
Yeah, that's fun. Pretty dope. So you guys, Clay, Ryan, you guys work. You guys have like a nonprofit. You guys bolt routes. Is that correct?
Well, we rebolt routes actually.
Yeah.
So we're updating a lot of older routes, things that have been maybe not climbed in a while because of the hardware. The condition of the hardware, it's aging and getting to a point where maybe it's not so safe.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of routes that we want to reestablish, and with updated hardware, good, solid, stainless steel, glue-ins.
Bring life back to things. You have a route sitting there for 10 years that hasn't been climbed, and now you put new hardware in it, and it brings life back into that route.
Yeah,
here's this
excited.
thing sitting there dead.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you put new hardware in it, and it gives people like this invigoration to go climb. They're just like, oh my God, look at that. There's new hardware. Oh,
Yeah,
let's
let's
give this thing a try. So that's kind of what we're doing, is bringing that life back into climbs that have been sitting there forever, and or just bringing the safety back into local climbing in Arizona.
Yeah, which is a lot of actually it's a lot of city parks that we're climbing in Phoenix, actually. So it's a delicate balance between working with the city, the landowner, and also the climbing community, and trying to find that balance between like helping out the climbing community, working with the city, making sure we have the right access, and just getting it done the right way. We want to take the right steps.
So I'm curious. I'm curious for you guys. Did you guys? So what was it that really brought you guys onto this path of this is what we're going to invest all of our time in? It's important for us to do this. What was it? What got you going on that?
So I guess as being the founder of this, the Central Arizona Boat Replacement Program, was just thinking back 30 years into the crap I put in. It was all hardware, Ace hardware stuff, and we didn't have access to the proper equipment. Sometimes you go down to Ace hardware 30 years ago, and you're just like, oh man, I don't have any bolts, and then you get what they have for concrete bolts, and that's what you used. Or you bummed off some old climbing buddy, hey man, you got any old button heads and 1/4-inch holes, and you hand drilled everything, and that's the kind of crap you put in. And then eventually, as time progresses and technology changes, I got to thinking, man, all this stuff's crap. The stuff we put in was just for us. It wasn't for everybody else. And it's limited in its lifespan. So if people want to go climb these routes, how do we make these routes safer? And for me, that was a motivation to start this program, was to make everything safer. We have the technology. Well, let's use the technology. We have the drills to drill the right holes. We don't have to hand drill shit anymore,
Right.
Unless it's like wilderness. So let's say we're not in wilderness. We have the technology. We can go to Home Depot and buy these drills for $500. Let's use them, to make the right holes. Let's put in 1/2-inch stainless steel hardware. Let's fix these routes that have all these old 1/4-inch button heads in them, that rusted out to like crazy. All the old 5-piece power bolts that are sitting in there for 30 years. Why do we have to have this shit? We don't have to have this. We don't have to climb on this crap. And it doesn't last 100 frickin' years. It only lasts like 30 years. So that was my drive to do all of this, and to set our program up, was to change all this old nasty hardware that was out there to make climbing safer for Central Arizona, because the technology is there to use. So let's use it.
So that kind of reminds me of something we were talking about earlier today, where you're talking about bolts being relics and kind of part of the past, and then also the need to just update the hardware for the safety of climbing. And where is that line? You know what I mean? Where do you cross that line from? Well, this is like a historic route. This has significance in the region.
I don't care if it's historic or not. If the bolt's shit, the bolt's shit.
Yeah.
If it's got rust, if it's got rust coming out of it, I don't care. I don't care if it's historic or not. I mean, if the hardware needs replaced, you replace the hardware.
Right. Plain
and simple.
So you're chopping the old stuff too.
We're not chopping anything.
Right.
We don't technically chop anything. Mm-hmm. What we do is remove and extract and use the same hole for hole.
Right.
So.
And you said that was what, like you said roughly like an 80%.
So what we have on a hole for hole basis, if we go up and we're going to replace a route, and we're going to say it's like the most historic route in Arizona. This is, by God, the best thing ever since, Christ was born. What you're going to get first off is you're going to get a hell of a lot of controversy from the locals. They're going to be like, why the fuck are you up there touching these relic bolts? My God, it's the best thing ever since sliced bread.
Right.
Jesus Christ climbed out when he was a child. So you have these battles to deal with first. Yeah. So you have this big battle with all these old locals in front of you first. But the hardware's all rusted out on the route. There's old leaper hangers and drop-in bolts and frickin' old button heads and five-piece bolts. All this just hardware bullshit that we had back in the day because that's all we had access to. So we go up to this route and we look at it and we say, all right, we're going to replace this. And we're going to replace it with all this fabulous, up-to-date, standard hardware, 5-piece, half-inch bolts on a granite route, because that's the hardware that goes into granite. So we go up there and we go to do this. And our whole goal to do that is to bring life, first off and foremost, is bring life back into the route so people can climb it safely. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to try to extract the bolts and use hole for hole. If we cannot get the bolt out, let's say you have a 5-piece in there and it's spinning like crazy. We put pry bars behind it. We pull on it with pullers. We do everything we can. We can't get it out. We have to chop it with a Sawzall. Sorry, guys. Shit happens. We got to chop it with a Sawzall. Mm-hmm. We're going to drill a hole next to it, within a safe, reasonable distance. We're going to put a new hole in. We're going to put a 5-piece bolt in. And then the hole that we chopped, we're going to pound that metal back in the hole. Mm-hmm. And we're going to patch it so you can barely see it. And that's our whole goal, is so that you can't tell what we did up there.
Right.
We have a kind of thing in our program called Don't Show the Public the Sausage, which is basically don't show people how things are made, because if you saw how the sausage was made, would you really eat it?
Well, yeah, it's the magician's trick.
It's a magician's trick, absolutely. Yeah. So we don't want to show you the sausage, but we're going to tell you the sausage today.
Right.
So there's a time where we have 85% success rate, hole for hole per bolt, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, that's extraordinary.
Good.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time.
And it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of training. There's a lot of tools out there that we have that we can use to do this. So we try to extract 85% success rate. So we go up to this old route and we're like, oh, there's all this crap's in there. We see an old button head with a leaper hanger. Well, we all know leaper hangers are shit. They were recalled within the first year they were put out.
Right.
So we put in a piton behind it that's tuned like a tuning fork.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a hole behind it, and you like tap it in behind, and the little button head goes pop and pops out of the hole, and we're like, well, yay, we got a button head out. And we drill a 1/2-inch hole in there, 3 inches deep, and we're like, oh, it's awesome. So we get
bomber,
that
dude,
it's
bomber.
all bomber. And I absolutely hate that word, bomber. It sucks.
Bomber
I hate that
gear.
word. It's all bomber,
It's
bro.
all bomber, bro.
But so we're pretty happy with being able to extract the old hardware, and it's not that we're changing anything on the route. So when we rebolt a route or any rebolting program across the country rebolts a route, they're not changing the first ascent. They're not adding bolts to a route. And I just want to get that clear to the whole general public out there, the climbing community in general. When we rebolt something, we're not adding bolts. That is not what we do. It is a bolt-for-bolt extraction and replacement process. Straight up 110%. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We don't want to change the history of the route. That is not our frickin' intention.
Yeah.
I love the history of the route. That's why I'm there. I want to bring that vibrance back into that route again. I want to bring that life back into it. I'm not there to change it. Why the fuck would I want to do that?
I mean, this is basic, like, leave no trace principles. It's just that it's so fucking hard for everybody else to do, or so perceived, that they don't do it because, it's different than just like taking a shit in the woods. You got to replace all these bolts. It's like work.
But I can teach you how to do it.
Right, exactly. There's knowledge out there.
You take our course.
Yeah.
It's a 1-day course.
Right.
And I can teach you, Rhett, how to extract these bolts and place them properly without changing anything on the history of that route.
Yeah.
Except for that old shitty piece of bolt that you don't want to fall on.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the only
it's
history
not
you're changing.
safe.
Yeah.
And now you're making it, relatively safe for everybody else. There's a lot of run out routes out there. We all seen it. We've all been on them. We don't want to change that. We want to maintain that history when we replace those bolts. I don't want to change that. I want to take a 40-foot run out into a 10-foot run out. That's not what our program's about.
Right.
And I don't think any rebolting program out there is about that. So I want to make that perfectly crystal clear to everybody out there that that's not what rebolting programs are there to do.
Right.
We're not adding bolts to routes. We are replacing the hardware that's already existing.
Exactly. I mean, when gear goes bad, you got to replace it. Why is this such a difficult concept for so many people to understand? Like, you got to preserve. No, it's bad gear.
And
change it.
And it makes me wonder if, like, these people that are so against it and they want their gear back, like you were telling us, like, they're like, those are my hangers, everything like that. You know, at what point does a general layperson that, you know, just say, hey, this is dangerous, like, these guys are doing great work keeping climbers safe, or do they just say, you know, fuck convention, if someone gets hurt, that's on them?
So I guess you're talking about liability and acceptance of liability.
Yeah.
Yes, we're leading you directly into
Thanks for the lead in on that.
Yeah. We're trying to keep it subtle.
I will personally say, as a first ascensionist, that when I develop a route, I am absolutely developing it for my own experience, but I am also always thinking about who might follow this path. If I have the privilege to climb a virgin piece of rock, then I need to consider that I'm taking ownership of this rock for a short period of time. But it's that short period of time that I think people get.
But what kind of ownership are you taking, Ryan?
But that's the thing. I'm taking ownership of my experience when I'm up there.
But that's the only ownership you can take.
And when I let go or descend off that route and it's done for me, and what's left is what's left, and it's no longer mine. It cannot be mine forever.
So what ownership do you actually take off that then?
I own my experience, and that is all I can own. The hardware that I put in, whether it can be taken away, it can be changed. I mean, I don't think you should change the characteristic of the route, but I do think that at times, you know, there's going to be a need to update this path. I mean, what I put in, a fucking fixed piton, a piece of shit, fucking, you know, it's got to be taken care of. It's got to be updated at some point in time. So you reach out, you want to talk with the first ascensionist, you want to make sure that you're on the same page as best you can. And, you know, I mean, I don't own the fucking route. That's really what it comes down to. I own my experience. That's all. That's all I own. And after that, it's up to everyone else.
So that, okay, so but that brings in an interesting controversy about ownership of a route. While it's your experience, think about areas of really popular big wall areas, like areas in Yosemite where you've got people running laps on top of people, passing them, everyone's sharing the same experience on the same route, and it's just overcrowding. So who has ownership in that experience then? Everybody? So everyone's held to the same standard?
I think we've kind of mixed this whole thing up just slightly in that little brief segment. So we're talking about ownership of a route. So the first ascensionist, the FA of the route, only has ownership in the fact that they climbed the route for the first time. They were the very first ascensionists to climb the route to begin with. That's the only ownership they have in the route. Other than that, the hardware that they install in the route, they no longer have ownership of that hardware. Mm-hmm. They have the ownership in, hey, whoa, look at me. I was a FA, you know, I climbed, you know, Bob's Blossom over in Yosemite. That's all they have in the guidebook. That's all they own. Nobody owns anything. Once you put the bolts in that route or you put the fixed hardware in that route, who owns that is the landowner. That's the first person that owns that. So if you're in the national park, who owns that hardware? That's the question. Right. So the question is,
Thanks.
is the national park. That's the question. Who has ownership to that? The national park does.
Yeah.
Right.
So if
And that
you,
says to me, that's the federal government.
well, yeah, and it can be anybody.
Yeah.
Let's say it's a private entity that you're claiming on, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, private entity, whatever it be. Like in Phoenix, we have Superior Copper Mine.
Yeah.
So when you go out into Superior and Queen Creek and you build a route and you decide, oh, this route, I'm going to put up pole dancing dragons. That's a route I put up, 2-pitch route, just this last year.
Yep.
When I put that up, the only thing I own on that route is the name.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't
Yeah.
own the hardware. So once that hardware goes in, and like you were asking earlier, these guys come back 30 years later and they're like, hey man, you're rebolting that route. I want my hangers back. It's like, are you serious?
It's like, what are you going to do with 30-year-old hangers?
What the hell? What do you want with that? Are you going to make it like a necklace out of it? I mean, melt it down, smelter it, and give your wife a new wedding ring? I mean, I don't know. Your sixth wife? I mean, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You don't own shit, and we don't want it. All this hardware that we take out, it's not that we're changing the first ascent, and we've been accused of that like, well, you just want your name in the guidebook because you're like, want the... I don't even know where the hell that came from. We don't want in the guidebook. All we want to do is replace the hardware. And that's what every rebolting program in the entire country is doing, is just replacing the hardware.
Yeah.
We don't want anything other than that. It's just make the route safe. And that's what everybody's after. I don't want the first ascent. I don't want my name tied to it. I don't even want my name on the goddamn route. I don't even want the program on the route. I don't want CABRP on the route in Arizona. I don't care about that. All I care about is that all the climbers in my community are climbing on the best hardware that's available at this day and age. That's what I want. That's what I want credit to, is that we went out and replaced all this crap hardware that's been in there, that's total junk rust, and replaced it with new hardware that everybody can go out and climb and be safe on. Ownership, we don't own that. We don't even own that hardware once we put it in. The first ascensionist doesn't own the hardware. So I'm kind of getting a little off subject. So if you think that you own the hardware on a route once you put it in, do you accept liability for anything that happens on that route once you install it if you accept ownership?
That's the question, isn't it?
I mean,
I think that's the question.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think
definitely think that, like,
it is.
If people started realizing the weight that liability holds, that someone else's life is pretty much on your dime, I feel like that would possibly be the way to guide people and saying, hey, don't take ownership of this.
Well, I don't think you necessarily need to take ownership other than the first ascent, because climbing is inherently dangerous, and that's the big liability wave off for climbing. Is it's in every guidebook. Well, don't necessarily, our guidebook, blah, blah, blah.
Climbing is inherently dangerous.
Yeah, it's inherently dangerous,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Check your hardware, yada, yada, yada. And all this liability bullshit that goes into court, whatever.
Yeah.
As a first ascensionist and a route developer personally, when I put those bolts in, I don't want the liability.
Fuck.
Screw that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I am not a millionaire, and I
No.
don't shit out rainbows of money. So I don't want that liability. The only liability I want is, fuck yeah, I was the first FA. Woo!
I touched
That's what I
rock.
want.
Yeah, no one else has touched it.
After that, you know what? It's inherently dangerous. Climb at your own risk, blah, 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 blah.
Good luck.
And then 30 years down the road, when you don't like my plated steel hardware shit that I put in, yank the shit out and put new stuff in.
Yeah.
I don't want that liability. And the landowner doesn't want that liability. The Forest Service, the National Forest, BLM, the private ownerships, they don't want that liability. So when we go out to rebuild a route on private entity, they don't want the liability. They're happier than shit than we come out there to replace all this old junk hardware, because they know what's in there. And this stuff's 30 years old. It's not rocket science, people. Come on. Plated steel is crap. And that's what we had. That's all we had. We didn't have stainless steel back then, 30 years ago. That's not what we had. We had junk. And now we have good hardware. Let's put in and use the right equipment. So the landowner doesn't want it in there. The Forest Service doesn't want it there. The BLM doesn't want it there. The Forest Service doesn't want it there. And when you go into Yosemite, who has the liability? When it all boils down to it, it's not the FA. Who's going to get sued when it goes to court of law when somebody dies? Guess what?
The state of California.
Nobody gets sued. Nobody gets sued. Tell me where in one claim that you found that when somebody died on a bolt that broke, that somebody took liability for that bolt.
Yeah. I mean, why would they?
Why would they?
Yeah, why would they?
Nobody wants to
yeah.
hire
He bailed off that one? Yeah.
But then
that was me. Yep, I did that shit.
But then doesn't that open up though a whole question of if nobody takes liability for these climbs, then why is government, like different government agencies or different areas saying, hey, don't climb here, don't do this?
Well, why wouldn't they?
I mean,
they don't want the liability. So they're saying, hey, don't climb here, so they don't want the liability.
Yeah, but I mean, if no one's taking ownership and no one's getting sued for this, like,
nobody's going to take it.
Yeah, then why not just say, let's open the land?
So let's get something real clear here real quick. I am not a lawyer. I'm a freaking dirtbag climber.
Bro,
so I
don't play with me now.
We're just tossing the shit out of this.
Tossing it out. This is all about building the conversation out.
So liability is a big issue out there. But, in the time that I've been here and I've been climbing, I've never seen a lawsuit come back on a route developer. And I've never seen a lawsuit come back on a rebolting program. And I've never seen a lawsuit come back on a private entity. Because, by God, climbing is inherently dangerous.
Yeah. So the thing about this business is that everywhere it's posted, climbing is inherently dangerous, right? And we all read that shit, we all sign the waivers, and we all know that it doesn't mean anything. And maybe that's it, is that climbing is such that it can't be won in a court of law. You can't sign any waiver. No waiver's going to hold up. No. Waivers get tossed out of court every day. And you can't accept the liability for something that
and why
is
would
shared property.
If you're a route developer, and you went out and you built this route, would you accept liability for that route
Absolutely
that you put
not.
in?
Absolutely not.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Who would? I wouldn't.
No one in their right mind would just willingly accept just free will liability for like someone's death or severe injury.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because of the style of the route that
I'm bowing.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous, man. It's fucking ridiculous. Like you're gonna no, absolutely not. That's the kind of shit that just gets me riled up.
So
that's the kind of shit that just gets me pissed off.
So the whole bolting thing in general really gets me riled up. I absolutely love bolts, and I'm kind of like Alex Honnold.
Yeah.
Hopefully I pronounced that right. Sorry, Alex, if I didn't. And if not, you know what? I'll give you my phone number at the end of this whole thing. You can give me a call and tell me how to pronounce it.
Alex Honnold, I think.
So anyway,
he
had
now.
a statement where he said, if you don't like the bolts, don't clip them.
Yeah. Yeah, bravo fucking man.
Oh, buddy.
That's OG purism in just the highest form right there.
If you don't like them, don't clip them.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yep.
Quit your fucking bitching.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that goes back to something me and Red have talked about multiple times, is that no matter how much people try to create rules for climbing, inherently you should climb for your own self, not for a rule book or some shit.
All right. I'm gonna bite the bullet here, and I might piss you guys off a little bit here, but I'm just gonna I'm gonna shoot it out.
Chossy.
A little bit of whiskey here. I fucking hate stick clips because because of exactly what you just said. If you're too scared to climb it without pre-clipping that first clip, then you shouldn't climb it.
So let me. I like that and I dislike that.
Okay.
So as a route developer, the other day I was out and I was on a wall called Whipper Wall. And it's an overhanging, like 45-degree wall, maybe 35 degrees. Who the hell knows? It's overhanging. So get ready to get your ass kicked.
It's severe.
But it's short.
Yeah.
So, but it's not highball bouldering short. It's bolted short. I guess if you're really like got a big sack, go out and hike. Whatever you want to do. I don't care.
Right.
So I'm bolting the shit out of this thing. I get to the top, I put in my top anchors, and I'm top down. I work this route up. It's a nice, beautiful line, but it's only a 3-bolt line. And that's what I'm thinking in my mind. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, God, it's only 3 bolts. Do I put 4 in? Well, shit, if I put the first one in high enough and I can stick clip that bolt, it'll make it a hell of a lot safer because there's a bouldery move right off the ground, high enough past, the first bolt, mid-crux, second bolt. Do you really want to clip that second bolt because you're looking at ground fault? So what the hell do I do? So there's big controversy in my head going on all day long, and I'm looking at this thing, and I have a piece of tape up there, and I tape all my bolts, and I climb it, and I have everybody with me climb it. And like, what do you feel? What's a general consensus on this? And my partner's like, God, I don't know. Well, shit, should we put one in lower? Should we stick clip the first one? Blah, 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 blah. So we came up with the consensus that the route has to be a mandatory stick clip for the first bolt because that is absolutely the safest way to make that route go.
Right.
And we were thinking on safety versus, I guess, how big a sack you have between your legs.
Yeah.
It was a safety thing.
So
we put 3 bolts instead of 4.
So where my thinking kind of comes in here is, and a lot of people who aren't a big fan of bouldering tend to not like high balls.
I don't like bouldering.
I don't like bouldering that much.
But I have fun bouldering.
It's okay. It's okay for like building strength, but it kind of gets boring after a while. But I do like high balls. They've just got a really thrilling aspect.
Why do you like that?
Like high balls?
Yeah, why am I asking you the questions? But why do you like high balls, right?
Dude, I'll tell you why I like high balls, because they scared the shit out of me. They do, man. That's why they're the perfect level of dangerous where like I feel comfortable taking the risk and know that probably won't die, but I will definitely be maimed.
Dude,
it's just like the right amount of risk. You know what I mean? And when I think about high ball climbing and I'm thinking about stick clipping in relation to it, I think about the way that projecting high balls is meant to be done. Ground up. And if you can't get past the move, you down climb. And you just keep doing it until you feel comfortable enough to do it. You don't set up a top rope. You don't wrap down and try all the moves on top rope, which is like the big thing now, is people get on these high balls like, bro, I highballed this. It's like, no, you top roped it 80 fucking times and memorized the moves, and then you just climbed it without a rope.
So let me call you out.
Yeah.
How many ground up routes have you done?
On high ball?
No, how many ground up routes have you established?
Oh, none. Established? Yeah, I'd say
so
none.
how can you make that opinion if you've never done it?
Because
if you've never established a route ground up,
right,
or you've never established a route top down, how do you make that distinction between the two?
Well, how I make it is climbing it without beta. Doing it in on-site format where I'm learning the moves myself. I didn't establish it, but I'm discovering everything as I go up. You know what I mean?
But is that really the same?
It's not the same, but it's not the same.
So now we're in a dilemma.
Yeah.
Now we're in a really big dilemma here on this show.
And for the audience at home, this is where the real questions happen.
Okay, yeah. Shoot from the hip, because I'm ready for them. No, I am. Okay, so here's the thing about high balls. When I climb them, they scare the shit out of me. And I learn the beta as I go, and I don't try the moves from a safe place. It gets to a point where I know the move I have to make. I've studied it enough, and I have to commit to that move no matter the height, no matter the sketch, whatever. So maybe I did set it, maybe I didn't set it, whatever. I've done a few like first ascent high balls, what I think. It's never been confirmed because there's been climbing in the area, but I've been like this, no one's ever touched that.
Okay, so you've just climbed high balls.
Yeah,
and
just
you're
high
like,
balls.
Oh, well,
and I'm like, I've climbed some
balls.
with established grades, some without, and I have like a general consensus of like where that's going to fit.
But so let's get back to where we were.
Okay.
I think we kind of just like sideballed this. So you've done the high balls, you've been on the routes with the stick clips, but you're anti-stick clip.
Right, because I don't use them. I
Okay.
I clip the first bolt climbing it.
So why in specific don't you use the stick clip?
Because I think...
why don't you like it or don't use it?
Okay, so I don't like it because I think it's a crutch. Because if you can't climb it from the ground all the way up through that first clip, which is the intended route, and that's the intended beta, and you can't do it without pre-clipping that. I mean, you're basically on top of that.
So you're basically saying the route that I set, and it's a mandatory stick clip based on the safety factor, that if I added a lower bolt, that lower bolt was useless. And that's why I added that. That's why I put the first bolt so high with the stick clip, that you're saying that that's bullshit?
No, I'm not saying it's bullshit, but I think it comes down to a climber's like preference. And for me, I don't consider it that I've climbed the route if I relied on any crutch whatsoever. So if I pulled on a draw,
how is that a crutch if it's safety?
Well, that's exactly the point. So my view is that if it is pushing that safety and it's increasing it from what the rest of the route is, it's like that first clip. There's 8 clips on the route, and it's just the first clip that you're starting with this little safety crutch, and it is for safety. I don't personally feel a sense of accomplishment if I climb something with that. I have to be able to climb it ground, first draw, hang off the sketchy fucking crimp ledge, and clip that first clip, and then just keep going.
So I, as a route developer, I get that and I don't get that. So when I developed the route and I was standing there at the base of it and I was thinking of Rhett, the guy that's coming in next after me, because I'll tell you what, I can clip the fucking first bolt off that clip. Mm-hmm. But I have to think about who's behind me.
Right.
What kind of climber is there? And this is like a 512 route. I'm guessing it's 512. So let's say 11D 512A. Mm-hmm. And it's bouldery as shit, dude. Mm-hmm. There's rocks below you. I've tried to clean them all out. I've tried to think of Rhett coming in there after me on this route. When you walk up to that route and you look at that first bolt and you're like, why in the hell did Clay put that so high? And he says mandatory stick clip. And because the reason that I did that as a route developer is so that you come there and you don't get hurt. If I get hurt, it's no big deal. But if you come there and you get hurt on one of my routes, what's the first thing you're going to do? Is you're going to jump on Mountain Project and you're going to flame my ass online because that route sucked balls.
And it fucked me up.
And so I don't want that. I always, as a route developer, I think of the second person and the third person, the fourth person. And I think about height. And I think about, okay, if Logan was out there, let's say Logan has a different ape index than you do, which might be complicated for some of the listeners out there. Ape index, look it up online, Google that shit.
Yeah, arms to like torso.
So, sorry, throw that in there. But so those are things that are running off in my mind. So if you're anti-stick clip because you want the experience to go do it, well, let me shake your hand, buddy. If you can go do that first crux move, by God, go do that. Yeah. And you and I are really good friends. Yeah. But if you stick clip that, I'm not going to go back to your mom and tell her that you were a pussy for stick clipping.
Fair enough. No, I climb with people who use stick clips, and it's funny because I've had several people I've climbed with just go, hey, Rhett, do you mind if I stick clip? I'm like, yo, dude, it's your experience. Whatever you want to do. If you want to stick clip that, and I go on like a long like guilt tripping thing for like a while, and I goad them into climbing it into the first clip. But no, it's always just come down to a personal level, and it could just be like that more of, I don't want to say, it's not really like purist mentality as much as it is just like, I don't know, anti self-help. I just don't want to feel safe.
Well, I get that.
Because I think that with climbing, so much of it is so physical, but equally as much of it is mental.
That brings up an interesting question. So you don't want to feel safe. So are you one that enjoys climbing on old hardware just because it's old and it might
nice.
not
I
hold?
like that. Thank you.
So when I have old hardware, you know what I do? I don't climb on that hardware. If I really want to climb the route and I don't like the hardware on it, I'll just solo it. because it's just a hell of a lot safer than relying on something that I'm not sure is going to hold.
But is it going to be a true solo?
So you're either,
or are you going to be like one of those?
Well, no,
people
most
you rage against where you say you solo. Air quotations.
Damn, everyone's coming. All right. Yeah. All right.
Free solo?
Just fucking let the hounds loose. Let me get my whiskey out, you animals, you filthy animals.
Hey, I like to view this as a Pandora's box. You open this.
Refill, man. Yeah. Kind of lost track of where I was going there. I felt so cornered from everybody. What would you say? What was the last thing?
This is a safe space.
Yeah. Those don't exist. Yeah. That's called the stick clip. It's a safe space.
Safe space.
Yeah.
So, but okay, like I get where you're coming from, Clay, about as a route developer, the first and foremost thing is the safety of the next climber. But is there ever like a midpoint place where it's like, say one route is very safety in mind, but then, the 5.8 that the noob, that the Gumby climber that goes out there and doesn't know anything, they're like, oh, I'm just going to stick clip. Like, is there like a mixture of where stick clip should be used and where it shouldn't be used?
I have a great question after this, by the way.
So here's the thing that brings us back to technology.
Yeah.
Technology, you have it, use it. Plain and simple.
Right.
That's the answer. You have it, use it. If it's 6 feet off the ground, if you had a stick clip and you're happy with it and you like it, stick clip that shit. Use it all day. Stick clip your heart out. Go to Wyoming. And I was raised in Wyoming, so back in the old days, it was like, oh, hard man.
Yeah, old school Wyoming, wind, chill.
We didn't even know what the hell a stick clip was.
Yeah.
And now you go out there and everybody has these clips and poles and all this crap. And, I have one. I actually have two.
Nice.
And I love the shit out of that thing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's super safe, and I don't care if it's 8 foot. I'll stick clip the shit out of everything. If you have the technology, use it. Why are we being caveman shit? And go back to the same thing I said earlier. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. That's your personal choice. If Logan owns a stick clip and you like it, damn it, Logan, just go use it.
See, here's my thing.
I do not like this idea. I'm against it. No, I'm just kidding.
I've only been climbing for about 3 years now, and I didn't even really know anything about stick clipping till like me and Rhett started climbing together earlier.
Well, till he got me, drinking a few beers, and I just started fucking railing.
And I'm just going, oh, I don't know what I stepped into here.
Yeah. Dark moment.
But stick clips are technology.
Yep.
We've advanced past that point. And there's bowl climbers.
Yep.
There's some. Oh, look at my God!
All right. Well, what was the saying you just said today? There's old climbers and there's bold climbers, but there's not
no
old
bold
climbers. Yeah.
Because they're all dead.
Yeah.
Okay,
but let me push back here for a second, because this is kind of, you were hitting on an interesting bit here where you're very opinionated about the safety involved in this and people's use of the bolts for that safety. It sounds almost like you have a little bit of ownership. Or you feel of the bolts that you put up,
absolutely.
And they're I guess you could say registered safety.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess in the original ascent, the first ascent, I have some ownership in that, and I have ownership in the fact that when you climb a route of mine, that I want you to know that was a route of mine, and distinguish that from all my routes across the United States or outside of the United States.
Absolutely.
So when you get on a clay route, or just call it clay route.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it's at. I put routes up all over.
Spooky boogie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get on that route and you're like, oh man, look, it's clay route. It feels exactly the same as a route that I put up in Wyoming versus Arizona versus Canada versus Peru.
That's just artistic expression.
It's a signature. So
yeah.
Route building, and it's not. So now we're gonna get into something a little bit different here, but I got to throw this out because it's just popped into my brain.
Yeah. Shoot.
We're not route setters.
Okay.
That's a fucking gym.
Yeah.
We're route developers.
Yeah.
We develop routes.
Yeah.
And it's an artistic expression of my personality. When I look at a rock, it's like painting a painting or drawing a drawing. When Ryan looks at a route, his vision is different than my vision. So I think it's an expression of our personality in a form of art.
Yeah.
When we're developing a route, we're not setting that route. If I'm setting a route, there's a big difference. Setting a route is going down to the local gym and going, oh, look, I got 6-inch holes every 6 inches, blah, 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 whatever. I got all these T-nuts all over the place, and I'm going to set this hole, and I'm going to set this hole, and it's going to be in this method. We're route developing, we're not route setting. So that's one clear method of it. So do I accept a part of... I don't think it's really... It's not a liability. It's like I'm accepting expression that I want my routes to be safe, fun, because we have the technology. I don't want them run out. Why the hell are we running 40-foot runouts anymore?
Yeah, I have not understood that.
What the hell?
From the lame person's view on bolting routes, I don't understand why people bolt massive fucking runouts.
If we're bolting a sport route,
yeah,
it's a sport route. It's not a how big balls do you have route.
Right.
What the hell was up with that? So back, and I hate this expression, back in the day when these guys were developing these routes, and I know a lot of the route setters in the gym, and I know a lot of the route developers outside. Route setters in the gym are completely different than outside. So back in the day when we were developing a route, these guys looked at it as one, they were drunk as shit, they were probably stoned, and they had shit hardware from Ace Hardware or from their buddy down the street that they could get. Bolts were hard to come by. I mean, when I was developing routes, I was like knocking on my buddy's door, hey, Jeb, dude, do you have any bolts? And I was out hand drilling shit, 1/4-inch stuff. And I was having to take 40, 60, 80-foot runouts because I had 2 bolts. That's all I had.
Right.
Dude, I didn't have... Today, if you go in my house, I have a gear room. And I have 500 bolts in my gear room.
Jeez.
And 500 hangers.
Oh, man.
So, and I have 3 drills.
Yeah.
You know? And I have 20 batteries. But back then I had a hand drill.
Yep.
And I'm not exaggerating. That's what I have. And that's my personal stock.
Yeah.
So I have the technology now. Why do I have to create those runouts? Back then I didn't have the access to the hardware. Today I do.
Yeah.
And I have the technology. So my concept as a route developer is when I go off the ground, the first bolt is no higher than 8 to 12 feet off the ground. If you're at 12 feet, you might be able to clip it as Rhett going out there saying, hey, I'm cool. I don't need a stick clip. You know, hey, good for you. Love you, buddy. You know?
I don't like these jabs you're getting in here, Clay.
So I'm cool with that. I still like you. We're going to be friends.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but at 8 to 12 feet, the next bolt is 4 feet.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
If you fall going to clip that bolt and you're 12 feet off the ground at the first bolt, you're going to clip the second bolt at 4 feet above that.
So 16.
Do the math.
Yeah.
If you fall,
Stretch.
you have a rope stretch, you have all that. If you placed it higher than that, are you going to deck? So you have to do the mathematics in this. So I go 8 to 12, 4, 6, and no greater than 8 feet apart on every bolt after that until I'm above 50 feet off the ground. And then I can go 10 to 12 feet in spacing. It's simple mathematics.
Yeah.
And we have the technology to do that. Rope stretch, distance of fall, factors of fall. There's all this involved. So when you look at that and you mark your routes, and we mark all ours with tape, and we do them all top down because why not? We don't have to do shit ground up anymore.
Right.
Have I done ground up routes? Absolutely. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
Right.
We're talking about bolts in general.
Right.
Yeah.
We have the technology. The bolts are out there. We have great hardware, and put it in there. And while we're talking about hardware and put it in there and all that crap, is when you're looking at a piece of rock and you're climbing on granite, what kind of hardware do you want to put in that granite?
Right.
Do you want to put glue ends in there? Do you want to put 5-piece expansion bolts? Do you want to put wedge bolts? These are all big questions. What kind of hardware do I use in this form of rock that we have? Conglomerate, sandstone,
Yeah.
limestone. There's all these questions. Well, all this information is online. You can go on Google, search
Right.
it, You can go on any climbing forum basically and find out, because everybody has an opinion on bolts. Go to Mountain Project, because
Every damn one.
everybody has an opinion.
Opinions are like assholes.
Everybody has one.
And they all stink.
And they all stink. Thank you. There's certain hardware that does certain things. I drink. 5-piece expansion bolts are great in granite. They're great in limestone. They have a use in sandstone. And so
are they okay, this is the biased Tennessee side, but are they the best for sandstone?
no,
What would be the best?
glue ends.
Glue ends.
Absolute glue.
It's a porous rock, so
Yeah.
so it's weak.
Yeah.
So
So can you go ahead, just for the listeners, and kind of explain what a glue-in is versus a regular drill-in bolt?
So let's get one thing out there. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a frickin' climber.
Yeah. That's
And
perfectly
I
cool.
look
Good to
at-
know. Everybody write that down at home. Yep.
Yeah.
Take notes.
I'm not
Just
an
like
engineer. So, like sandstone, limestone, rhinolite, dacite, any of the soft porous rocks, we prefer to use, in our programmer, me personally, we prefer to use a glue-in bolt. And the reason is because the glue, how do I want to say that?
It just connects.
It kind of soaks into the rock.
Yeah, it really just connects to.
And when
the
they
rock.
pull test that stuff, it connects to it. Yeah. So when they pull test it, they pull it out of the rock. The rock around it blows out before the glue or the bolt blows out. So if let's say we're out in Yosemite and we're bolting on El Cap, what bolt would I personally use out there? I would use a 5-piece or a wedge bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Those are absolutely perfectly fine in granite. Would I use a glue in? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because granite doesn't suck up the glue.
Right.
Can it be used?
Right.
Absolutely. You can use it all day long. Will it hold for 30, 40 years? I'm not going to be the one to say yes or no, but probably.
Right.
But I would say the preferred method is 5-piece or expansion. In sandstone, every single day, go to Zion.
Yeah.
Get your shit scared out of you on
Yeah.
Zion. We
Yeah.
have pitons smashed into a hole.
Yeah.
Scares the shit out of me.
Probably rusty as shit too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
rusty and
yeah,
shit. And you're
yeah.
hanging off this stuff, hauling 200-pound haul bags and all your buddies,
Yeah.
and you're just like, what the fuck do I tie into? and you're thinking Zion, the mecca
Yeah.
of rock climbing is. I mean, Jesus, it's like Yosemite.
Right.
So you get out there and you look, and it's pitons drilled in holes everywhere. What the fuck?
Right.
Why are we not using glue?
Yeah.
Why is this shit not being replaced? Why are there not 12 millimeter by 150 millimeter bolts put in there for anchor bolts where we're
Monster
hauling
bolts.
tons of shit up the rock? I mean, we have the technology. The shit's cheap. It's $7 a bolt. It's $12 for a tube of glue, maybe 18 at the most. And that's almost a year-old tube of glue. What the hell? Are we broke? Why is this stuff not being replaced?
But does that come back to the whole heritage of, people saying, hey, I own this, I don't want, anything to change about it?
In Zion? No, I don't think so. Because really, nobody takes ownership of anything out there. They took ownership of the first ascent, and that's what they have ownership of. I think the thing in Zion, in my opinion, is there's not really a bolt replacement program out there to begin with. So,
yeah, so the bolting in the southeast, I know, God, I wish we could get some SEC climbers on here. I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier today.
I don't know if I want to talk about that.
Okay.
You
Fair
can
enough.
talk
Yeah.
about that all you want, but if we're going to talk about it, I don't want to name any names.
Okay, fair enough. Another time then.
So what I will say on that subject
Yeah.
is that we were talking about this earlier, and we were talking about opinions of other rebolting programs. And it got into a subject of little tiny micro things in rebolting. So I'll give you an example. So we're rebolting a granite slab route, where the hell ever in the U.S. or overseas. Doesn't matter. It's granite slab route. We have a 5-piece expansion bolt that we're replacing, and we're going to put in another 5-piece expansion bolt. So we extract the old bolt, we drill a new 1/2-inch hole versus a 3/8 hole that was existing, and we're going to slam in this 3-inch by 1/2-inch 5-piece bolt. Comes with a washer on it. the manufacturer sends it out for a concrete application, whatever. All bolts are used for construction. They're not rated for climbing, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a shit? So we all use them for climbing anyway. So it comes with a washer on it. Why in the I'm going to cuss. Why in the fuck does it come with a washer? I'm not an engineer. I'm not a rocket scientist. Jesus H. Christ. Why does it have a washer? Because the manufacturer said it needed a washer. Why does it have a washer? For friction, people.
Yeah.
It has to have friction. So when you put a hanger behind the washer, it creates friction. You have surface area. If you get rid of that washer, you lessen the surface area behind the head of the bolt. So now you have a spinner bolt over time because you have no surface area with friction.
Yep.
Leave the goddamn washers on the bolts, people. They come with them for a reason. Quit getting rid of those fucking washers. I'm going to kill you all for doing this.
You heard it here first at Chossy Conversations.
You will die.
Yeah, dude, that's straight up. No, I'm going to abide by this now. Now I'm going to be a fucking hard ass around Tennessee and just
There
say,
really
"Hey,
needs
guys,
to be the
come on."
washer.
But then does it go into, if you leave the one washer, do you go to like say Short Mountain and put the 20 washers on?
Okay,
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. All right. Here we go. Rant time. Bring it in. Here comes the mic.
I had to stoke the fire.
I'm not gonna promote this place because I do think the climbing's decent to like Midland potential for Middle Tennessee, but whoever the fuck bolted the sport routes at Short Mountain, go find a hole somewhere, please, and just hide because I'm so mad. 20 washers rusted to hell, just stacked on a chain. Like if I flick that with my little finger, I'm gonna just shatter everything.
Oh, so I get this. Thank you for bringing that
yeah,
up.
segue.
So I get this conversation online that the reason that I need to take the washer off the bolt and just add the hanger, get rid of the washer. Just fuck the washer. You got to get rid of it because now the bolt is taking up the washer space. If I left that washer on there, it's subtracting the depth that the bolt is going to go into the hole. So think about that. You're just talking about 10, 20 washers behind a bolt and a fucking chain on there too. How much hole did you just take up?
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. I'm talking about leaving a washer on, and you're talking about 10 washers behind it. Where's the mathematics in that, people? I mean,
Dude, it's the physics, bro. It's the physics.
God damn.
The universal answer of Southern climbers. It's the physics.
It's the physics, man. Shut
it's
up.
It's
God,
not
just-
only Southern climbers. This is throughout the United States, dude.
Nah, don't break my hopes. Don't break
No,
my spirits.
it is. It's everywhere.
Welcome.
And then, okay, so we have this, and we're going to add on. So you have two chains hanging there, and you put your rope through two chains, right? That's called redundancy. There's two items,
Right.
One on the left, one on the right. You put your chains through the last link in the chain. That's two chains. Now, some jackass goes up there and puts a 250-pound quick link and ties both those chains together. And they call it safer.
Because they connected 2 points to one.
To a 250, they changed.
Yeah.
Okay,
We took
so
something
We
that can
eliminated redundancy.
So let's think about this.
Scream!
This is better for all
Yeah.
of us. It's safer for all of
Yeah.
us because we took one 1,500-pound chain link and another 1,500-pound chain link, and we put them together with a 250-pound quick link. What the hell?
I
is
don't know what
safer
the
about
fraction is on that, but it's large enough that I can't do it in my head.
It's pitiful.
It's,
that?
yeah.
I'm sorry, but that to me is just pure ass stupidity.
It is.
Well, I think that's where we get into the
Chossy conversation.
Chossy conversations, but the Darwin Awards for climbers.
Natural selection. Yeah, maybe don't climb on something with like 20
All right.
washers stacked. I'm just going to get more bitter on that as we go along.
So I think we've kind of went all over the
Yeah, no,
spectrum
that's
on
like
this.
totally gone. I
Yeah.
think we're actually wrapped up for time today, so we're going to close it
Well,
out here.
I don't know. Like I say, let's segue one more time.
What do you have in mind?
We got to talk about Ouray.
We do need to talk about Ouray.
And this is where we met these guys.
All right,
is so true.
So here's a little rundown of the setup. So we are somewhere in Ouray, up on a hill, at one of those 14er hills.
A fantastic place.
Yeah, a fan-fucking-tastic place. We met these guys. We met these guys on the first night at the opening ceremony. There was a bluegrass band. I don't know. Ryan and I got beers. I said something about the compressor route to Clay.
Don't get me going.
Got it.
So it goes, etc.
That's gonna be for the episode when we actually travel out to Arizona.
Yeah, etc.
We'll do
etc.
a full segment on that.
Yeah.
We're just getting that chainsaw revved up.
We have to get people to like us first before. No, I'm just kidding. We'll have a good time. But we met these guys out there, and they offered for us to stay at their place because we were like crashing in a snow parking lot somewhere in the fucking mountains. And we've just been chilling, drinking, partying since.
You didn't mention the like totally awesome freaking house that we have.
It's huge. I'm getting there. I'm warming up. I'm building the spirit. It's an amazing house. The view. I think what would your friend say? It was like there's at least one 14er within like eyesight, like immediately of the house, and then there's like another like 12 and a half.
Yeah.
Not that far away.
Perfectly.
Yeah, it's just crystal clear. It's nice. It's a great space. It's nice and clean. These guys have been amazing hosts.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. You guys have been really great, and we look forward to Ouray next year, and we're definitely going to hit you up in Arizona.
Sweet.
Yep.
We hope so.
So,
a lot to experience.
Yeah. From what we understand.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping this up.
We're pretty much wrapping this up, I think. Yeah. Is that anything else you want to talk about?
I say especially if you've enjoyed this episode more than any other episode, I say go to Facebook and check out these guys you all want to give a shout out to.
Yeah, we're cool with you coming on and giving us crap at cabrp.org. You can send us an email. I'll take crap all day long. That's fine. And I don't really have to read it. So I have a person involved in that. So that's awesome.
The gloves are off.
That's Ryan and some of my media guys. But no,
I'll put
seriously.
up with the shit all day long, guys. Don't worry.
If you really want to talk to me, just mention my name. Say, hey, man, Clay, I disagree with you, or I agree with you, or whatever. I don't really care. I'll talk to you all day long. About bolting or route development, any of that, but route setting, forget it. I'm not going to talk to you about that because I don't work in a gym.
Nice.
But these guys are totally awesome. Really love this venue that they've created and they've done out here. And as far as people, these are really genuine people. They're great climbers. They're not like going out and establishing like the next greatest best thing ever, but who gives a shit about that? They're just good people in general, and
they just want to climb, man.
That's what we're all out here for. And the fact that they're out here living in their car in freezing ass temperatures in the night to get this kind of crap on a podcast is amazing. Because I'm a whatever.
Super inspiring.
Appreciate that.
These guys are totally awesome. I would absolutely love to listen to anything that they ever have to offer. If you ever get a chance to be on their program, get on their program, come out, tell them hi, support them if you can. We love having them out here. We love having you all out in Arizona. If you ever get a chance to come out, we'd love to have you. You all have my contact information, blah, 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 blah.
We'll hit you up with all of the above, Professor. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's the legend.
Yeah, the legend.
The legend.
Apologies. All right, guys. Well, I think that's all the time we got for today.
Cool,
so
thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it. Hope
Yeah.
you guys have a great future, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, appreciate you guys have been great hosts. It's been a nice, fun time here in Ouray.
Yeah.
All right.
Tune in. Chossy Conversations.
Hang tough out there, you Choss goblins.
Yeah. All right, we are signing off. I'm Logan McGaha.
Red Lundy. See you guys later.